Hey everyone, I'm Alex, and welcome to The Roasted Mind, the show where we enjoy some coffee, have a conversation about self-help, personal interests, and growth, and express the thoughts that can be a bit harder to discuss. So, have a seat, grab a cup of coffee, let's talk. Good morning, everybody. It is currently Friday, April 7th. I believe it's like 9 a.m. now that I'm recording this. And right next to me, I have a pour-over, poured directly from my Chemex pot. I just made it. It's brewing. It's steaming. I got my fog in my glasses already. And pour-overs are pretty interesting. You know, they become pretty much my favorite way to have coffee because I feel like, well, first of all, I'm mainly a black coffee drinker. I started during COVID when I was trying to get through this like weight loss thing, and you know, I kind of had this witchcraft mentality of, well, creamers have fats and that's bad, right? So then I started doing black coffees, and you know, I hated it at first. I'm like, this is just dirt water. This is bitter. This isn't good. But I just grew to love it. I grew to love that black coffee. You can really taste the flavors of that coffee bean, where it's from, what they're supposed to emulate. Some are caramelly, some are fruity, some are more nutty, some are more marshmallowy. It's insane. And those flavors are only accentuated more when you have it in that pour over method. There's just something about the pour over that really makes the flavors pop, especially when you order it at a coffee shop and they really take their time with it. You know, these are people that do it on the daily, so they kind of do it better than I could do it at home. And you pair it with an avocado toast or maybe a almond butter toast, something that really kind of pops out with the flavors of the coffee that you ordered. It just makes it taste so much better. And that led me to get gifted this Chemex coffee pot, which I pretty much use on the daily. And I learned that making a Chemex pour over, or any kind of pour over, Chemex is just the brand of the pot, that it's a very meticulous process. This is a process that you really kind of have to take your time with because it is timely. I think from start to finish, it makes me a cup of coffee in about 15 to 20 minutes. And a lot of that is just waiting time. So to go over the steps of how I make my pour over, what I do is I select the beans that I want for that morning, and that can either be from a local roastery like Bad Owl, or maybe it's Makers, or to kind of really any other local roaster I have on hand. I feel like the local ones just taste so much better, and you can really support those local businesses that roast them for you. Then after I chose the kind of flavor that I want from the beans, and usually the flavor will be listed underneath the name of the brand. So in the case of Bad Owl, I think it's called the Dark Venom. It has more like marshmallow tones, and that one's been one of my favorites lately. I'll pour about 2 to 3 tablespoons into my grinder, grind them up until they're kind of finely ground. And while that's going on, I'm gonna have a kettle going, and this kettle is gonna be full of water, just kind of heating up, kind of almost to the point of boiling. And while that's heating up, I will put a filter on my Chemex pot just to kind of get it ready. And once it's done heating up, I'll pour over that hot water over the filter to kind of warm up the Chemex while also wetting the filter and getting it ready for the coffee. And from there, swirling the hot water around so it really warms up the entire glass, and then pouring into the sink because you don't want a watery cup of coffee. And then I'll pour the grounds into the middle of the filter, let them bloom by pouring hot water over it and waiting for about 30 seconds. And then I'll pour again and for around a swirling motion for about 60 seconds, letting it drip down, then doing it a second time so I can get all the beans that stuck to the side of the filter down into the center of the filter, and really letting all those flavors drip down into what is an incredibly delicious pot of coffee. Now, when I speak about all this, it sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. It sounds like it takes up a lot of time, but in the grand scheme of things, it really isn't. The most time spent is waiting for the water to heat up, waiting for the coffee to drip down. The only really active process you're doing is one, the grinding, and two, just pouring the water over the coffee beans. It's not anything crazy, but it's something that once you finish it up, you have a delicious tasting cup of coffee that you're really glad you took the time to finish. To me, there's just something so refreshing about making a pour over that really gets you started on your day. This is kind of a way to take care of yourself indirectly because you chose these beans, you chose the flavors that you wanted, and you made the coffee at the temperature you wanted, the weight you wanted, you know, whatever. You can get really scientific with it and everything. But at the end of the day, you can add your own creamer, you can add your own sugar. I know a lot of elitists will say, oh, why are you doing that with a pour over? Oh, you know, it's super acidic, and you know, whatever. I had that experience once at the coffee shop. One of my first times ordering a pour over, I asked for a side of cream, and the lady just looked at me like, are you serious? You're ordering cream with a coffee? And I'm like, well, yeah, it's a coffee. I want cream in it, right? And she goes, Well, it's really acidic. Why would you want that? I just want to let you know that it can curdle up. And I kind of was like, okay, I'll take it anyways. And you know what? I actually enjoyed that cup of coffee, even if I risked the cream curdling or whatever it was she was trying to tell me. And I'm sure it was valid advice. I'm sure that she was actually giving me a valid chance to order a cup of coffee the way that it should have been tasted. But at the time, it's just what I wanted. And that's kind of the best part about making coffee in your own home, pour over or not, is you make it the way that you want. Well, the reason that I chose pour overs for today's episode is because it kind of reminds myself of restarting yourself from scratch, kind of giving yourself the chance that you always give others, giving yourself the time that you so selfishly gave everybody else, or even just kind of telling yourself that, hey, you matter. But this process isn't an easy one if you're not used to it. This is something that takes a lot of time to work on, and this is something that can make you tired out because you're just not used to it. This is something that really makes you have to say, well, hey, I'm the number one player in my own game. Hey, I'm the main character in my own story. Hey, I'm the person that I need to be taking care of first and foremost, which can be kind of foreign if you're not used to it at all. The steps for restarting yourself from scratch kind of are almost in a way it's similar to a pour over. You want to plan out how you're going to do this, whether it's you're going to start journaling, whether it's you're going to start by eating alone, whether you're going to start listening to certain music or really start posting the things that you want to post, or maybe it's even just talking about certain things that you're interested in that you never really talked about, things that really kind of evaluate who you are and why you're doing this. And while you're doing that planning step, you really want to feel how you're going to feel while you do it all. Are you going to be anxious? Are you going to be frightful? Are you going to be excited? Because that really kind of gets you going for the next step of actually doing it. The way that you feel while you think about it and you imagine these scenarios, quote unquote, is that this is going to be the way that you're going to start off feeling in a way. If you're excited planning it, then you're going to be excited going through it. If you're kind of frightful planning it, then you're going to be a little afraid to go through it. But that's okay. That's the natural way that your brain's going to think about things, whether you have anxiety or maybe you're just really confident, which both are great because both are tools that you can use in the right way to get you going on your mental health journey. Another great tool during this planning step is looking at ways of inspiration and what you want to do, how you want to go about it, what you kind of want to present yourself as. When I had done this whole mental health restart back in September 2022, I started to look for sources of inspiration on how to present myself, how to create my own aesthetic, how to think the ways that I do, how to enjoy certain things that I do. And so one of the biggest sources of that aesthetic was Daniel Simmons and the way that he presents his interests, his love for jazz, the certain aesthetics, certain text bubbles that he would put up over his videos, certain way things were filmed. That's how I wanted to present myself. So I took sources like that. That's just one example. I took sources like that and kind of put it in my own way. So I'm not just copying this person's certain unique personality trait and making it my own, because then at the end of the day, that's not really your own trait. Then the next step after you find these sources of inspiration and know how you want to present yourself and know who you want to be is to actually go out and do it, which I know can be a lot harder to say than it actually is. Steps like eating out alone can be foreign to you if you're going by yourself and you're used to usually just eating out with somebody else, having a conversation, and just really being there with another person. It's so easy nowadays to eat by yourself at home because you can just order takeout or you can go pick it up and come back and watch TV while you eat because now there's something that's distracting you while you're eating. Eating out by yourself is hard because there's nothing to distract you. You might look out in space for a while until your food gets here, or you might check your phone every 5 minutes to keep you distracted, or maybe because you're anxious that other people are staring at you because you're eating alone, but you're doing something that everybody else wishes they could do. You're giving yourself the time and getting comfortable with yourself because at the end of the day, you really only have yourself to be comfortable with. Yeah, you have family and friends and all that fun stuff, those people that matter to you just like you matter to them, but you're the one that's living in your own body. You're the one that's living in your own head. You look in the mirror and that's you. You kind of write things down and that's you writing them down. So yeah, eating by yourself is something so simple, but it's something that you'd never done before. It's something that you'd never think would make such a big difference in who you are and what you think about yourself until you finally sit down alone and evaluate really, well, this is what I like to eat. I'm kind of doing this by myself and enjoying the own peace of mind, my own company. And let's say maybe you don't have enough time to go eat by yourself. Maybe you're really busy. Maybe you have things that you have to do, or maybe your funds are a little tight to go out for breakfast or go out for lunch by yourself and pay for this meal. There are other steps you can take in the beginning that kind of get you to where you want to be. For me, I started journaling, and that was a way that really let me let out my emotions, really kind of let out my thoughts on this piece of paper, or rather on a computer program because I was using Notion, and be able to write as much as I want during the time that I had allotted, which was usually early in the morning or late at night if I had missed the morning time. And every time I would write, I would always preface it with a song. And the song would be either something that I had listened to the day before or a song that really kind of made me think about what I was writing down. And at the end of this paragraph, I would kind of write down a little note to myself. I'd write down like a finishing thought, something that kind of would say along the lines of, maybe I am doing good. Maybe this whole time I was doing good. And maybe it's time for me to start doing better. Those are just two examples that you can do to start off this whole refresh that you want to do, but there are a lot of other things you can do. Let's say you are kind of shorter on time, and something really simple that you can do, something quick, is, well, everyone's on social media. Everybody has Instagram, everybody has Twitter. You can repost this reel on Instagram about, let's say, Studio Ghibli, something that you think people will think you're a dork, but who cares? Because you're posting this for you. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. You're giving yourself this personal interest, this time to put it on your profile. So that way people know that you're interested in it, and the people that are interested in the same thing are going to show you a lot of love. The most important part is that you did something about your mental health. The most important part is that you started this journey and you did something different than you did yesterday. You added an extra step into your journey that's going to make the progress so much better once you get to that end step. Then the last step, after you finish the planning, finish feeling how you want to feel, and then actually doing it for a while, which the time frame of doing is going to be depending on you. There is no short set amount of time. Nobody's going to be ready in a week. Not everybody's going to be ready in 2 weeks. Not everybody's going to be ready in a month or in 2 months. This is all depending on you. If you take a year, take that year, because that's 1 year that you didn't give yourself before. After all that, the last step is reflection. The last step is figuring out what worked, what didn't work, and revising it. Seeing how often you can do this on a day-to-day and how progressive it is for you to keep doing this on that day-to-day. And from here, you can add or subtract what worked, what didn't work, what you want to do next. That's kind of the beauty of this step-by-step process, is it's a cycle. You figure out how you planned it, then you do it, then you reflect and you plan again. And usually that reflection and that planning happen in the same time frame, because then the next day you're going to do that plan, and then you're going to reflect and plan something else and then do it again the next day. That's the best part about this whole step-by-step process, is it's a circle, it's a cycle, and it's something that you're giving yourself now that tomorrow you're going to be so happy you did the day before. It's refreshing. It's almost akin to the step-by-step process of making a pour-over coffee. For me, the reflection came from these end paragraphs that I would write at the end of my journal. And after a while, after I got comfortable with figuring out what I wanted to write and how I wanted to write it, I would put them on Instagram. I would cut them out into little text boxes, the very last paragraph of my journals, and just post it on there over a picture of some food, or maybe it was the background of an image, or maybe it was just me doing something in a video, who knows. And I would always put a song that I was feeling that day. And people started to reach out to me, and they would tell me, hey, this is great. Thank you, because this is something that I want to say, but I can't say. It's something hard for me to talk about. Nobody, I feel like, wants to listen. And the kind of irony of it all is that I did it for me. I didn't do it for them. I was posting it because, to me, if I put my thoughts out there and I let it known, it was kind of akin to talking to somebody in person, which, yeah, it's not the same thing, because when you talk in person, there's a lot of bounce back, there's a lot of feedback, there's verbal emotions, there's physical emotions that you can see in the other person's face, empathy, sympathy that you get when you talk face to face instead of putting them online. And that's kind of the beauty of talking face to face. And I really hope that you guys kind of get that chance to open up to somebody close over maybe a cup of coffee, so to say. But to me, putting it out there was almost kind of similar to that, making sure that people could listen to what I was saying, because that's what I wanted to talk about. I didn't do it for them. I didn't post it for other people to feel how I felt. I did it so people could see how I felt. It was kind of therapeutic in a way for me to put these out there, because this was my reflection. This was my chance to write it down, decide if I wanted to post it or not, and choose a song meant to convey the emotions that I had written down. Something that was kind of a leading question in a way of, wow, he's actually feeling this way, and maybe I am too. Bettering yourself isn't easy. This is a process that requires you to start from scratch, essentially, and it requires a lot, and I mean a lot of patience, because you're not going to get results the first time around, maybe not even the second time around. You're gonna have to keep a consistent schedule, a consistent routine of you doing these things. Maybe you don't have to eat out every day, but at least journal every day. Maybe you don't have to journal every day, but at least start looking at things that you want to look at on the day to day, reposting posts that you want to post on the day to day. Maybe it doesn't even require that. Maybe it requires you just wearing shoes that you want to wear maybe twice, 3 times a week because that's more than you did last time. Maybe it means you're wearing your favorite t-shirt. You bought this t-shirt that maybe not everybody will like, but you do. Maybe it means that you're wearing these pair of jeans that you like to wear, or styling your hair a certain way. There are so many things that both require no money and very little time that you can take to better yourself each and every day. But the thing is if you keep it consistent and you keep it going long enough, you're going to see results before you know it. Before you even stop to think, you're going to be a changed person for the better. Before you even stop to reflect again for that next day, you're going to be a completely different person than you were the day before, the week before, the month before, however long it took you to get here. But you're going to be so much happier that you took this step, that you took these steps to better yourself, because you're not only going to be comfortable with who you are, but you can count this as a win. You can count these as steps that you took for yourself that you didn't take before. And now you're at this point of your life that you are satisfied with. And that in itself is satisfying. Seeing the change after those months of waiting and all that patience that it took to get here, that in itself is a win, and you deserve that. Just like the meticulous process of making a pour over, that step by step to get that end result, the delicious cup of coffee, that step by step process of you taking care of yourself is going to become the end result of something you are completely satisfied with. This end result of you, uniquely you, and this is the you that you've been wanting for so long. That's not to say it's not without challenges. I mean, just like when you're starting to make your own pour overs at home and you don't know what type of beans you want to use, so you use store-bought grounds, or you didn't heat up the water enough, or maybe you put too many or too little ground in the filter, or who knows, there's a lot of things that can go wrong when you're making a coffee. But just like that, when you take care of yourself, there are challenges. Maybe you're not going to be used to getting used to yourself. Maybe your restart requires you reevaluating those friends that you have because they're more hindrances than they are improvements. But don't let those challenges defer you from finally figuring out what you want and going about getting it. The more time you give to those things that are hindrances in your life, to those challenges, the harder it is to going to be to restart, and the worse it's going to be on yourself when you realize, well, maybe it's too late. Which, no, it's never too late. Trust me, it is never too late. I'm 24 and I might be speaking from inexperience, but it is never too late to at least start on the little things that you're interested in, to at least start on the small building blocks that end up being the foundation of who you are. One of the last things that I want to emphasize is to not get mixed up with being comfortable with where you are and to being okay with where you're at. There's a similarity between being comfortable and being complacent, yes, but there's a big difference between being complacent and being satisfied. Being comfortable might mean that you know that there's room for change, but it just might mess up your day-to-day routine that you've established. But maybe that change in that day-to-day routine is what's needed. Maybe that's the thing that's kind of hindering you down. Maybe the benefits outweigh the risks. Uncomfortability brings satisfaction, which might bring comfortability again. It's not like you're going to be uncomfortable for the rest of your life. You'll build a new routine. You'll play with the cards that you've dealt yourself. And all of these things, all these little things, all these challenges that you've kind of overcome and started to take care of yourself with will end up bringing back that comfortability factor that you missed so much from the start of your journey. So I encourage you to at least think about it. Maybe it's a little harder to start now, but at least start planning, or even think about planning, or even think about thinking about planning. Like I said, and like I've been saying, that's one more step closer to doing it than you were yesterday. That's one more step closer to taking care of yourself and becoming that person who you see yourself being than you were before. Just like a cup of pour over. It's a meticulous process, yes, but the end result is so much sweeter for it. The end result really shows that the time you took to make this cup of coffee, or rather the time you took to take care of yourself, really paid off because you're going to enjoy it so much more than you would, let's say, a brewed cup of coffee from a drip brewer, or maybe, I don't know, a bottle of cold brew or something, or maybe just you not enjoying the things you enjoy because you're afraid. Things like that really do matter. You matter. You matter most to yourself more than anybody. but you're the only one that can recognize that. So I encourage you to please start thinking about the things that you like, start thinking about the steps you want to take, and start thinking about the person that you want to become. Thank you all so much for tuning into episode 1. It means a lot for me for you to stick out after the introductory episode. I know it was pretty short, and I know this one was a little shorter than I wanted to make it, but a good friend told me that as long as I come out passionate and enjoy what I'm talking about and just continue talking, the time frame doesn't matter. If it's a little shorter, that's fine. It's better to not rush things and fill out this 40-minute time constriction that I wanted for myself than to seem ingenuine and just continue talking and blabbering because I want to fill out that 40-minute time constriction. Hopefully you guys could relate a little bit to today's episode, and hopefully next week you could too. Let's see if I can figure out how to add video for the next episode. But for the meantime, thank you all, and bye.